Okay, we are live. I am so delighted as we begin our countdown for the yoga retreat for women of color.
Yes, yes.
And I'm so delighted to have you here. Can you pronounce your full name for me, please?
Satta Jallah.
Satta Jallah. Okay, I
Yes.
have my list of questions for you so we can
Yes.
know you a little better. Can you
Absolutely.
tell us about your journey as a performing artist, from your beginnings as a dancer at Brown University to your current diverse repertoire of music, dance, spoken word, poetry, and theater?
Yes, that's that's a lot. Yes. So I started as a performing artist. Been a performing artist for like the last 15 or 17 years or something like that. I started at Brown University, and it was by happenstance. So every Sunday there was a open community dance class at Brown University, and one particular Sunday I missed the actual community dance class, but I came when they were auditioning for one of the dance companies there, and I knew one of the students at Brown, and he said, "Stay for an audition for the dance company." I was like, "Are you sure I can do that?" Like, you know what I mean? So I stayed, and they loved me. The rest was history. I was a principal dancer with New Works World Traditions at Brown University for 2 years. And then after that, I went on to starting my own reggae band called Rooted Sound, and
Nice.
yes, it was we gigged all over New England. I did shows in New York as well. um
Is that your ancestry, the Caribbean?
no, I'm actually West African, so my parents immigrated here from Liberia.
Okay.
So if you know anything about Liberia, it's kind of like this anglophone corridor for Caribbeans, and also freed Black American slaves that went there and established the government and everything like that. So there's a diverse mixture of the African diaspora in Liberia. So sometimes people mistake and think that I'm Caribbean, but I was like, no, I have Caribbean aunties. You know what I mean? And
And
I
the Caribbean traces back to Africa, so
exactly, exactly,
all
exactly.
that.
We're
Okay.
all one.
Yes,
But
indeed.
reggae music was always so influential in my life. So I started a reggae band, and it was great. We gigged all over New England, did shows in New York, like I said, and then
What
after
were some
that,
of your memorable experiences during that time?
yes. So one of my memorable experiences was we did a show at Crash Mansion in Manhattan. That was really memorable. And I also did Showtime at the Apollo
Crash Mansion in
Mansion.
okay, I
Yeah,
can
in the Bowery district.
what time period was this?
This was this was before I was a mom. So this was like in the early 2000s. This was
Early
like
2000s. Okay, I was in California because I was pretty up on New York things. Okay, all right.
yeah, cuz you're from the Bronx, right?
Yes.
Yes. Awesome. So yeah,
And
did
uh,
go ahead. Mhm.
you've been recognized with the Creative Community Health Fellowship for
Yep.
your work in holistic wellness.
Yes.
How do you integrate holistic wellness into your art, and what inspired you to pursue this path?
So, in terms of that fellowship that I was awarded, it was right before the pandemic, like literally a month before the pandemic happened. So it was a fellowship for artists to now learn how to bring their different multidisciplinary practices into community health,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
To use their art as a platform to talk about different health disparities within certain communities and things like that. They trained us. It was like, I think, a 13-week training, And then after that, I interned with a senior adult center, and they're such a delight. I love working with the senior community in terms of yoga and things like that. So, and we're going to get into a little bit of that about Afro yoga dance. So I would do Afro yoga dance with them, chair yoga, and
Yes.
then also share plant-based recipes, you know what I mean? Because the community that I was working with is in a predominantly Caribbean neighborhood, right? So you have a lot of people from the Dominican Republic, from Haiti, all over the Caribbean. So we did a lot of plant-based renditions of traditional Afro-Caribbean food, right? Um,
Beautiful.
yeah, so yeah, it kind of, the pandemic, opened up a lot of things for me, a lot of different creative avenues, because when we were locked down, I started to now just cook. I just would turn on Facebook and would post my recipes because we were all in the house. There was nothing else to do. So I would post my
Nice.
recipes. And then before you know it, I was in the kitchen cooking,
Nice.
listening to some soca or calypso one day, or like some piano the next day, cooking.
Yes.
And it just, people just kind of gravitated towards my social media platform. And before you know it, it spinned off into starting a plant-based catering company. So that's kind of like what kept me afloat during the pandemic, when I couldn't, go be in person and teach classes and different things like that. So yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
Okay. So, my next question has to do with art.
Yes.
What role does art play in addressing social justice issues, and how do you use your platform to advocate for social change?
Yes. So art. So I think automatically my music, right? So shortly after that fellowship, when things started to open up, after the pandemic, or during the pandemic, because it's still kind of, it's still kind of, it's happening, right? So I want to say 2 years afterward, I went back to Liberia, my mother country, right? And I was able to now launch my music project, because during the pandemic, I was still, always doing my different, modes of creativity, whether it was dance, whether it was music. At this time, it was music. So I was able to now launch my EP called Broken Dialect. And so the type of reggae that I do, it's done in so we have a version of our broken English in Liberia. We call it colloqua. As you know, in Jamaica, it's called patois. In Liberia, it's called colloqua.
Okay.
So I performed, it was it was a short EP, performed mainly in colloqua, and hence the name of the EP called Broken Dialect. And one particular song I had was called it was called Love and Liberty. So the motto of Liberia is the love of liberty brought us here.
Nice.
So in that song, I talk about all of the different ups and downs, you know what I mean? Political upheaval, you know what I mean? Different things like that. Because when you think about reggae music is it's one of those genres of music that really, where social justice is, infused, as well as spirituality. So it was easy for me to now use that particular genre of music and that platform to now talk about what we have gone through, as a people, as a country. And luckily for me, I was able to now debut it on one of the top radio stations in Liberia.
Wow.
I also was able to now intern for one of the up and coming senators in our community in Liberia. So it opened a lot of doors. It opened a lot of conversations, and I was able to meet the vice president of my country, the former president, first female elect in all of Africa, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, during, because I happened to be in Liberia 2 years ago during Women's History Month. So I met all of these, fantastic women, and it gave me an opportunity to, see where I came from, in terms of like, oh, so this is where I get my strong lioness spirit from, right? Because like,
Wonderful. That's
yeah,
a wonderful thing. I'm so
yeah,
happy you're able to
yeah.
do that. In the context of a global community, how do you see the role of art and holistic wellness in addressing pressing issues like mental health,
Mhm.
inequality, and environmental concerns?
Absolutely. So, fast forward to now, I my on my TikTok platform, I started talking a lot about um, being neurodivergent, because I have, ADHD, and I also, deal with complex PTSD
Could you give
as
me a
well.
description of neurodivergent
Yes, yes. So being a neurodivergent,
or
there's
definition? Yeah.
yes. So neurodivergence, is like a big umbrella of different, how would I say, uh different neurological or just mental health in general. So like, when you think about bipolar disorder, that falls under the umbrella of neurodivergence. When you think about OCD, when you think about complex PTSD and PTSD, when you think about ADHD, autism, ADHD, which is a combination of autism and ADHD, um uh so many different things fall under the umbrella of being a neurodivergent, right? And all it is like, people that think out of the box, right? Or have a different way of looking at life and looking at, the world around them. In my particular case, it's ADHD, right? Where it's like, and I sometimes I don't agree with the term because people say it's a hyper, what is it, attention deficit. I was like, it's not a deficit. I feel like I'm paying attention to everything all the time, right? And especially being a woman of color, being a Black woman, an African woman, it's still taboo to talk about mental health, or anything mental health. So on my TikTok platform, I'm now talking about being a multi passionate, creative, as well as someone who has ADHD, and the different, how does the what is it, the how they kind of correlate with each other, or the intersections of ADHD and being an artist. Because I've done research on other artists like Leonardo da Vinci. He, and if he was living in this day and time, he would be considered someone who is neurodivergent. Many of our popular, artists in pop culture, have some sort of, what I mean, neurodivergence. So in terms of like globally, using, art is like a therapeutic, so therapeutic. When I think about movement, expressing yourself, it is so therapeutic in when it comes to mental health, especially in the neurodivergent community, because sometimes we feel, like we're not heard, we're not understood, we're very misunderstood a lot. So sometimes the only way to, really get our point across is in our artistic mediums. So I truly believe that art can be therapeutic in that respect.
All right. Um, uh, let's see. Can you share any insights into your process of engaging with different cultures and traditions through art? What have
Yes.
you learned from these experiences?
So my process is pretty much just it's very rooted in community, right? So when I think of community, I also think of village, right? Having your village, having your people with you. There's another motto that we say in Liberia, our people, one people. You know what I mean? We may have, different dialects, different ethnic dialects, but we are still all one people. So it's just, it's my process is very much rooted in community. So when if I'm teaching a dance class per se, or a yoga class, um, it's very community oriented, meaning like there's a portion in my dance class where everyone, we kind of get into a circle, and you know what I mean. We may do some movement exercises as this communal circle as we're dancing, because I'm growing up. and looking at my aunties and my mom and things like that. It was like a circle of women, or when we would go to weddings and things like that, it was like a circle of people coming together, moving together. So my process is always putting community first and thinking about how do I involve, different people within the community, and especially when I worked with the senior population. It was about thinking about, okay, how do I now invite different mobility ranges, and not limit people because of certain mobility challenges that they may have. So incorporating chairs, incorporating props and different things like that, so they can still have a modified version in which they move their body and still feel like they're a part of the class and what we're doing.
Beautiful. So,
Mhm.
what have you designed for the yoga retreat for women of color with all
Yes.
these different ingredients that make
Oh.
salad too?
Well, so I'm very excited. It's been a long time since I've been back at Kripalu. Because of the pandemic, I wasn't able to come in person for a while now. So I'm so excited to be back at the Women of Color Yoga Retreat. And what I have in store for everyone, the music is going to be a very huge part of the backdrop this year. I know I was talking with Maya, and she brought up the song Jerusalema. I was so excited. I was like, yes, because there's this particular genre of African music right now called Amapiano out of South Africa. And it's so upbeat, it's so vibrant and alive. And I'm just excited, helping to guide people moving through the energies of the music, because one thing I do believe, especially as people, from the African diaspora, our meditation is also in movement, right? When we dance, there's it's like this thing that activates, this ecstatic energy that activates within you, and you're moving and you're dancing, that takes you into a place of transcendence. I think about even growing up in the Black church, you know what I'm saying, and seeing people shout and go into to praise and worship, right? It's always been movement, and spirituality has always been something that was always closely related to each other for me. So I'm really excited about being able to now facilitate people into that unique ecstatic energy that helped them to transcend. So that's what we're bringing this year to
All
the Women of
right.
Color Yoga Retreat.
And
Hmm.
how can people find out more about you, your website, your social media,
Yes.
and
So
whatever other last comments you'd like to make before we wrap it up?
absolutely. So I'm Satta Jallah on Facebook, SattaJallah. I know it sounds like a unique name, but there's a very popular West African name. So just make sure you look to see my profile picture on Facebook, because there's many Satta Jallahs on Facebook, believe it or not. And then on TikTok, I am Neurofabulous Satta on TikTok. And then I'm mainly on Facebook and TikTok, mainly TikTok nowadays. And then if you go to any of those areas, you can find the links to my websites and stuff like that. So yeah, that's how people can get in touch with me.
Great. And any thing else that you would like to share?
Um, I would like to share that, I'm just very honored and excited to be presenting with, women like you, very powerful and dynamic women like you,
Thank you.
Maya, Keisha, and all the other facilitators. And I'm so excited to be in community. Like I tell people that the Women of Color Yoga Retreat is like our homecoming, right? It's like our Black yogi homecoming
Yes, for
for me.
sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
because
Yeah.
I always, you know what I mean. I had friends that went to HBCs and HBCUs, and I kind of like always envy like the elaborate
The
homecoming
community.
celebrations
Yes,
that they would
yes,
have,
yes.
right?
I feel
And
the
I'm like,
same
well,
way. Yeah.
yeah, so I was like, well, the Women of Color Yoga Retreat, that's our homecoming.
It
So
is. It is.
yeah, I'm excited about coming home to my sisters and being in community with everyone, moving, dancing, laughing, and doing yoga. So yeah, I'm excited.
So am I. Thank you
Mhm.
so much for spending this time with us.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
I'll see you at the yoga retreat for women of
Yes,
color. For
yes,
those, I have it on the ticker below. It's kripalu.org, and just look for yoga retreat for women of color. Let's dance. And
yes,
we'll see you there.
yes.
Okay.
Peace and blessings, everyone.
Peace and blessings.